Welcome back, folks. The second iteration for the 9.18 test server is now live, so there's more capacity for the servers, and therefore the queue wall should be a lot less. There's better compensation for the drivers of tier 8 light tanks for the switch to tier 9, and you have a little bit more time to try out the revamps for artillery, the light tanks, and the matchmaker, and give very crucial feedbacks, because this patch, it's huge. It affects a lot of the mechanics in World of Tanks. 2 tank classes out of 5 are getting changed. That's a lot. So highly recommend you checking out the test server and give your feedback on this patch. But in the end, I still have a very small but basic problem with this patch. And that is, where is the patch notes? You always have patch notes. What's the difference from the second iteration to the first iteration? I don't know. So where is the specific details of all the changes? There is none, at least for the North American server. So I checked the other servers. On the Asian servers, they're still asleep, I guess. It's 12 hours from my time, so it's in the morning, but probably they're still translating it, I guess, so there's nothing. The Russian servers obviously have it, but it's in Russian, so Google Translate will have a few errors. I'll still have to proofread. It's a mess. So thankfully on the EU server, they have a fully translated list of the difference from the first iteration. So thank God. But as you can see, some of the key features got changed, like the recharge time for the large first aid kit. So this was 60 seconds. Now it's 90. So too good? What about the large repair kit? Will it be the same? I don't know, but yeah, bunch of issues with the models. So fix the issues with the tracks and displays and whatever. But what's important is the compensation for tier 8 light tank players. So too long did not read version of this is the game will check if you already research the tier 8 light tanks. If you already did, it will check if you already have it in your garage. If you already do, it will still keep its crew. So unlike the first iteration where they took your crew from the tier 8 light tank and retrained it to tier 7. That's not fun if you already own the tier 8. Why the hell should I retrain my crew for the same vehicle? That's not fair. So they changed that. That's good. It will check that if you already research the tier 8 light tank, if you already have the tier 7 in your garage, you will be compensated with the sale purchase or sale price of the tier 7 light tank. So if you already have the LTTB, you will receive the sale price of the LTTB. So basically 1,200,000 credits or something. Free money if you don't have the tier 7. So if you already researched the tier 8 and you don't have the tier 7 in your garage, you will receive the tier 7 with a 50% crew. You can just sell it for the same price. That's also good. But if you already have both, well, you'll get the price as well as the crew doesn't get shifted. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I thought about a way to scam the system. Try to get a little bit more out of this, because you're getting a free tier 8 now, or free tier 7 from the current patch to the next patch. So basically you're receiving a free tier 8. If you sell it, you get more credits, right? But thinking about this, the only way of scamming the system and getting a little bit more out of it is you free XP through the tier 7 to the tier 8 without ever buying it. So logically speaking, in order to research the tier 8, you must buy the tier 7 and play with it. Obviously, right? But if you free research the tier 7 or the tier 8 from the tier 7, so you basically unlock the tier 8, you will receive the tier 7 for free, and therefore you can sell it or you can keep it. So that's the caveat, I guess, but trying to scam the system. But in the end, if you play through a lot of the light tanks, if you have the high tier vehicles, you will receive the compensation for the copy. So here you can see, if you already have the LTTB in your garage, and if you already research the T54 lightweight, you'll get 1,200,000 or 205,000 credits. That's pretty good. Same goes for the Germans, I think. Psych! You get nothing. What? HWK. Accrue. Wow, you don't. Yeah, they don't get it. Okay, so basically for the LTTB, I guess. RE251 is from the HWK. Well, if you're playing the Germans, you don't get one because it's not directly attached. Or the tier 7 and the tier 8 moves together, whereas the RE251 moves separately from the SP1C because the HWK12 stands in the middle. That sucks. Alright, the same applies to the Bulldog and the T49. So they're a pair and they're moving up. Both are moving up. So if you already have the Bulldog, you'll receive 1,200,000 credits. Good. And doesn't apply to the AMX 1390. So you only get the Bat.Chat 12T if you already have the AMX 1390, and you only get the HWK 12 if you already have the RE251. So you don't get the credit bonus. That's interesting. I mean, I tried to scam the system, but you can't. Well, you can only do that if you free XP to the tier 8 without ever buying the tier 7. That's the only way to get the tier 8 or the original tier 7 for free. Small detail. So in order to prepare for this patch, here you can see the original text about what happens to the modules, the XP and crews and emblems. So configuration is the same. There will be switch upon changing. So the more you research at our tiers, the more you unlock on the more you research at the lower tiers, the more you unlock at the higher tiers. But it's for less XP because XP amount got shifted, obviously, from tier 8 to tier 9. So it's better to research now. Yep, logically speaking, the crew moves with the tank, logically. Emblems and camo will be refunded based on the gold cost, if they're permanent, or credit cost, if they're or non-permanent or temporary, so based on the remaining duration. And finally, the changes to the branch structure won't affect your XP earned on the light tanks, so XP will be kept at the same tier. Alright, so here are my advice for preparing to get the most out of this switch. So if you already own the Russians or the Americans, because they're both shifted with a pair, you should try to get the free 2,400,000 credits. So you could get that if you already researched the American T49 or the Russian T54 lightweight, or both. So that's a way, but I recommend you buying the tier 8 light tank now, because when they switch, the price cost will increase. You will not get the tier 9 vehicle for free. It does not say that. Alright? So even if you already have the tier 8 vehicle, you will not receive the tier 9 vehicle for free unless it's the same vehicle. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, if you already research the tier 8, buy it now. So buy it, and that's because it's 2,400,000 credits. I'll just show you. It's a lot better for me to show you than talk about it. But here you can see with the game, if you already research the T54 lightweight at tier 8, it will cost the same price, about the same price as the new LTTB. So it will cost 2,400,000 credits. So buy it now before it get bumped up to tier 9, which it will cost about 1,100,000 credits more. So it's the same way that applies to vehicles that you want to sell. So basically, if you have a tier 8 that you want to sell, wait for the switch. So afterwards, you're selling a tier 9 rather than selling a tier 8 for more credits. So that's the economical way of handling it, but money crunching, money thinking, But yeah, I like the compensation, I like the extra credits that you can see right here. So here is when you log on to the test server. So I already have the Bat.Chat 12T, the AMX 1390, So I received the Bat.Chat 12T because the AMX got bumped up. I already have the Bulldog / T49 in my garage. So they gave me 1,200,000 credits. And I already have the LTTB and researched the T54 lightweight. So they added another copy of the LTTB, which in turn is 1,200,000 credits. So yeah. Basically, if you play American light tanks, if you play Russian light tanks, if you reach tier 8, you will get 2,400,000 credits. And yeah, that's pretty good. That's like, what, a tier 8. That's actually pretty nice. So free credits, I guess. But for the rest of this video, I want to talk about the new light tanks. The LTG, the HWK-12, the Bat.Chat 12T, the Pz.Wgn, and the rest of the tier 10s. Because now we have the models right here in tanks.gg. So let's take a look at the rest of these new light tanks. So here is probably my favorite vehicle from this patch. The Igor, the Quasimodo or Gumby. It's special. So once you have this vehicle, the radio is pretty much universal. If you already play Russian tanks, you probably will have this radio unlocked. It has less weight, so you can actually mount it without mounting the tracks. The engine has better horsepower. It will cost 11,000 XP. It has the same weight, so you could research the engine first without getting the tracks and mount it. But you do need the tracks, I believe, for the Top Gun. So tracks is 9,500. The Top Gun is 15,000, so it weighs more. Yeah, it does weigh more by 0.3 ton. So you do need the tracks, but yeah, this vehicle, Igor tank, I love it. Such a special looking vehicle, so flat. Igor, Quasimodo, Gumby, whatever you call it, it's special. So DPM is not that bad for tier 7. Penetration is kind of lacking. It's like a comet in terms of penetration. So the Top Gun is only 144. The Star Gun is 126. So yeah, obviously the penetration is like a comet. Reloads every 5.75 seconds. Gun rammer could increase that or decrease that to 5 seconds or so. It's alright, but it's okay. DPM. Aim time is alright, 2.2. Dispersion 0.36, whatever. Module damage, 85mm. Shell velocity is somewhat decent, 950 meters per second. It's alright. 38 rounds. Ooh, that might be a problem. That's a new thing. So potential damage is about 7,000, and this is kind of low. The 85mm does not do that much damage. It does alright damage, but you don't have that many rounds. So make sure your shots count. So this is a big thing, I believe. Only 38 rounds. That's close to the T-54 prototype in terms of ammunition count, or close to the T-44-100. But if you already play Russian medium tanks with low ammo, like the IS-6 or IS-3, sometimes if you spam too much, you will figure that you have no more rounds left, and therefore you are only good for scouting. So be aware about that. Top speed 63 kilometers per hour, reverse is 20, 650 horsepower engine, 25.71 horsepower per ton ratio, so it's not as crazy as the LTTB, but then again, it's alright. Better matchmaking now than the original LTTB. Tank traverse 50 degrees per second, pretty fast to turn, so effective traverse based on the terrain resistance. Terrain resistance is more of a medium, 0.86 for hard, 0.96 for medium, and 1.53 for soft. Soft terrain resistance is good. It's better than the medium tanks of the same tier, but the hard and medium terrain resistance is about the same as the medium tanks, counterpart of tier 7. Counterpart medium tanks of tier 7. Gun elevation, great! 25 degrees. 5 degrees of gun depression, that's alright for Russian tanks. But gun elevation is very high, so you can point this gun upwards, close enough to shoot at aircrafts. But small detail, gun traverse is 40 degrees per second. That's how fast the gun elevates up and down. Turret traverse is 50 degrees per second. That's fast. 40 millimeters of hull armor, 110 at the front for the turret and 80 at the sides. 15 millimeter for the tracks, 880 health. It's a tier 7 light. Yeah, it doesn't have as much health as mediums. The Comet has 1150, I believe. So obviously, light tanks will have less health, but the view range is good. 390 meters of view range, standard radio. Alright, where's the camo for tanks.gg? They don't have the camo? Ugh. Alright, concealment. That's close to the Hellcat. That's good. So this vehicle is very flat. Hellcat has 19.4 or 19.6. So yeah, this is just as sneaky as a Hellcat, but it's a lot faster. So let's take a look at the armor. It's basically a freaking flat plate with a large turret. Oh my god. So yeah, 110 at the front. It's a little bit slow, but don't count on it. It's only good for like tier 6 medium tanks, like the Shermans, with only 110 millimeters of pen or 120. So other than that, you will be pinned. It's a pretty flat target. It's kind of large based on the surface area from the top. So basically artillery shells with now better accuracy and better aim time will probably hit the top of your vehicle. It only has 20 millimeters of armor and therefore mostly full damage, like 600 or 700 from the 155 millimeter ish of a gun. So try not to get hit by artillery, but cannot promise anything. So it's the Igor, the Quasimodo, the Gumby tank. I like it. Now let's take a look at the new Russian tier 10, because I was thinking about the German since we're at tier 7/tier 8, but we're at the same tech tree. So let's take a look at the T100 light tank. This is the Speedster. It's super fast. I had a lot of fun with it on the sandbox server, but now it's nerfed because obviously it's too good. So T100 light tank. Holy crap. There it is. So DPM wise, it's not bad. It's like the 121B. Puns. Well, 121B has like what? 2200? So it's okay. 230 millimeter of pen, it's okay. 320 damage, alpha. It's like Russian mediums. Guns. Aim time is fast. Alright. Rate of fire. Not as fast as mediums, obviously, but 8 seconds is alright. It's like the... Well, I think the Object 416 has like what? A lot of DPM, right? For the 100mm. But it's close to that. It's not as close to the tier 10s, but yeah, okay. It's alright. 0.42 accuracy. That's the weak spot. That's the Achilles heel of this vehicle. But it has pretty good dispersion on movement. Like a American tank, American medium. Shell velocity is fast. Fires APCR. Yep. Ammo capacity is better than the LTG. So potential damage is a lot higher. That's good. Top speed 72 kilometers per hour. Reverse speed is fast, 25. Engine power is 720. So only 48 now, rather than the 55 or something. Like the 1000 horsepower on the sandbox server. That was crazy. But still, 48 is nothing to scoff at. That's still pretty good. So it's like the BT series. The BT5, BT7, or BT3. One of those have a lot of horsepower per ton ratio. Traverse is super fast. Terrain resistance could be better. So 0.96 for hard. That's usually the mediums. Actually, that's usually the medium terrain resistance rather than hard terrain resistance. 1.25 for hard, or 1.25 for medium, and 1.82 for soft. It's below average compared to the average of 0.7, 0.8 for hard, 0.8 for medium, and 1.4-ish, 1.2-ish for soft. So slightly below average. Gun elevation, only 15 degrees. It's like the average. It's not good, but average, so whatever. Gun depression 5 degrees, Russian. Gun traverse 33, so up and down for 33. And turret traverse for 55. Alright, it turns pretty fast. And dispersion is pretty good on turret traverse. All armor is 100mm at the front, 40 at the sides, 40 at the rear. It's a large vehicle based on the surface area from top to bottom. 180mm at the turret front, 40 at the sides, 40 at the rear. 20mm tracks. 1500 health, so like a tier 8 heavy. Alright, weighs only 15 tons. 410 meters of view range. So not as much as the Americans or the Russians. The Germans for this Russian tanks. But it's alright. It's okay. But let's take a look at the model. The collision model. And here you can see the upper plate is relatively strong. Relatively compared to other medium tanks. But the turret is not as strong as the new WZ132-1. So it's only 180 at the bottom, at the turret base, right here. It's 165, a little bit at the top, or in the middle. And it's much less at the top, 130, and the roof is 26. So it's a fast vehicle, but if you land a good shot, it will probably penetrate, unless you hit the upper plate at an angle, like this, or hit some sort of super rounded spot next to the mantlet slash like the turret base, but don't depend on it. So yeah, it's still a large surface area for artillery and new accuracy. It's only 12 at the bottom of the turret, or at the end of the turret. Wow. And 16 for the engine bay or engine deck. Wow. So based on the new artillery accuracy and aim time, try to move a lot faster, because if you get hit, it will probably pin. It does not deal that much damage, but I believe since it's a cramped vehicle, it's a small compact Russian vehicle, a lot of the modules, a lot of the crew are squished together, and one shot from artillery means all your crewmates, or close enough to all your crewmates, and most of your modules destroyed. so still try not to get hit. But one of the main weakness about Russian tanks is that a lot of the components of the modules are squished together, and if a penetrating hit lands, most of the modules will get damaged, and sometimes you'll burn from a destroyed fuel tank and basically you're dead. So that is probably a weak spot for the Russian tanks, but what could you do? Now let's take a look at the HWK-12 at tier 8. So this is a mini boot, mini VK-esque VK4502B. So rear mounted turret for this little light tank. Yep. And let's take a look at the research. Should take a look at the research first. We do it live. It's not scripted. What are you talking about? Click. There you go. So once you research this vehicle, it will have the top gun, and all you have to do is research the top turret. The radio is shared from the SP1C, so you probably already have it. Right? The turret obviously doesn't get shared. Engine is not shared. You have to research. Well, 14,600 for the engine. Radio is already there. 15,400 for the turret, and the tracks about 15,000. The engine weighs more than the stock engine. It looks like you cannot mount it without the tracks. So unlike the LTG, you have to research the tracks before you research the engine as well as the turret. Alright, that's okay, but you already have the top gun, so using it should not be that big of a problem. A lot of DPM, 2,100 for a tier 8, but that's alright, that's pretty good. Compared to the heavy tanks, compared to the mediums, that's actually pretty decent. Penetration is 180, that's like the old mediums of tier 8. Alpha is like the old tier 8 mediums, so it's a 90mm. Alright, aim time is alright, 1.9 seconds. Reloads relatively fast, but like a medium-ish. Dispersion 0.35. Okay, not good, not bad, it's alright for a German. 90mm, so a little bit more module damage compared to the 85, but that's LTG at tier 7. So here you can see potential damage is a lot better, 50 rounds, so a lot better than the 6,800 on the LTG. Top speed is 65 km per hour, reverse is 23, good. Horsepower per ton ratio is 36. 450 horsepower, that's pretty decent. That's fast for a German tank, but then again, never played the RU-251, so cannot make that statement. But 45.89 degrees per second, alright. It's not as crazy as the Russians, but then again, Russian tanks are known for turning, so turn resistance is like a medium with below average soft. That's more like average ish, so meh. But 10 degrees of gun depression, 15 elevation, so this thing could go hull down, even though it has a rear mounted turret. That's good. 48.89 turret traverse, 35 for the gun elevation up and down, no armor whatsoever, a lot more, or like a tank destroyer health at tier 8. So is that good? Well, it's a light tank, it's not medium. Medium tanks at this tier usually have 1,400, 1,450, that's the Centurion. So it's like a Romutel Borsig. Alright, no weight, it'll get squished if touched. 410 meters of view range, so the view range is very good. And this vehicle is very small, compact. I forgot to take a look at the camo rating for the T100. I'll take a look after this one, I guess. Sam, do stuff in order. Oh my god. But camo rating is not as good as the LTG, so meh. Well, let's take a look at the armor model. Space armor, not space armor. Spare tracks for the ammo rack, presumably. And still not much. So basically you'll get pinned. It's not as huge from top to down, so artillery shells will have less of a chance to hit you while you're moving. But this thing looks like the same oscillating kind of turret that's on the Pz.Panzer 57 or the Untitled Panzerwagen, the tier 10. So here you can see that the gun will jut out or protrude out of the top of the turret. So this is oscillation turret. It's not a conventional normal turret where the gun barrel and the breech is located inside the turret and doesn't pop up. So that's what oscillation means, but small fun fact, I guess. The more you know. But let's take a look at the camo rating. You cannot look with tanks.gg. I forgot. Alright. Click. Click. That's why I like Tank Inspector a little bit more, because it's all found in one spot. So I don't have to go back and forth. And a little bit better than the LTG. Not much. So about the same as the Hellcat. Alright, good to know. Now let's take a look at the Pz.Panzer 57, also known as the Untitled Panzerwagen. And that vehicle should have a pretty decent accuracy compared to the Russian counterpart, but it's larger vehicle. It's like a American light tank. Where is the Panzerwagen? There it is. So this is the new tier 10 German light tank. They nerf it a little bit from the sandbox, I believe. So Untitled Panzerwagen. So DPM is actually tier 10, and that's pretty good compared to the T100. So 2440. That's closer to the mediums, so that's good. Penetration is also better. 242. Also APCR. Faster aim time, 1.8 seconds. A lot better dispersion accuracy, 0.35, but not as good shooting on the move, so don't. Potential damage is only 30 rounds, so 11,700. It's alright, but it's a 105. It's only 30 rounds. If you spam a lot, 30 rounds is like the cutoff from having too little of a shell count to average shell count. So based on the alpha, it's alright, but it's like the Russian D25T for the IS-6. That's how many rounds the IS-6 has, but it's a lot better penetration, obviously. Top speed 75 kilometers per hour, reverse is 25. Has a pretty powerful engine, 1,100 horsepower. Horsepower per ton ratio is 44. Traverse, pretty quick, very fast, like a Russian tank, and pretty decent terrain resistance compared to the Russian counterpart. So this thing should be faster, quote unquote. Don't, I'm take my stuff with a grain of salt, but I believe this is actually a little bit faster than the T100 based on the terrain resistance. So it's a lot better than the 0.9 for hard and 1.2 for medium, 1.8 for soft, I believe, on the T100 memory. So yeah, this should be pretty fast. And top speed, obviously, pretty good. Gun depression 10 degrees. Hull down, that's good. Turret traverse 45.89. Not as quick as the Russian, but and don't really need it unless you're circle strafe, but still pretty good. Gun elevation is 35 degrees per second. Alright. No armor whatsoever. So there. 1,600 health, a little bit more health. And weighs 25 tons with pretty decent view range, 430. So even though the nerf on this vehicle happened from the sandbox, it's still pretty good. Still relatively good, in my honest opinion. Now camo is another thing. 15.73 compared to the 19.8. This vehicle is not as stealthy, but it has more view range. So it's a little bit better at hill poking, gun depression, and suppression like Patton tanks or Pershings or Centurions, and just annoy you with their view range and their gun depression to pop up and take pot shots at you and poke back down. So that's the speciality for those American tanks and British mediums. So let's take a look at the armor, but no armor whatsoever. If you get hit, it will probably penetrate. So yeah, light tanks, but the same oscillation turret like the HWK. So as you can see, if it has the full gun depression, the top will protrude from the turret. So extra surface area to be get shot at, but small detail. And let's take a look at the Americans. So out of the bunch, I thought the Americans would get the T-92 light tank, filling in for the Bulldog right here, but we didn't. So that's disappointing. But let's take a look at the Sheridan prototype. So they added the cage. Already talked about this, but they added the cage. They added a little bit more buffs to this vehicle. XM551. I think there's a dash. Alright, if you don't want to play nice, I'll just type Sheridan. Thank you. Ugh. So DPM, oh, it has the derp gun, so you can use the derp gun from the T49. The T49 will keep the derp gun, but you can use the 152 derp, or you can use the 105, your choice. But it has obviously less DPM, but then again, you don't penetrate with the high explosive, so that's meaningless discussion. So camouflage is worse than the Panzerwagen, so obviously a lot worse than the T100 or the LTG for all that matter. But I mean, if you want to play with a derp gun, you should not really scout. And the T49 was a unorthodox scout tank. It was not a scout. It was a medium-ish of a tank, or annoying light tank with a derp gun, or artillery, or super fast artillery, if you think about it. But penetration for the 105 is not as good as the Panzerwagen, but then again, a lot better than the Russians. So actually 4 more millimeter, about whatever. Alpha 390, yep. DPM is actually pretty good. Very good DPM, about the same as a medium tank of tier 10. Accuracy is not bad for American tank, 0.38, about the same as American tank. But American tanks are known for shooting on the move. So dispersion wise, it's better than the Panzerwagen. Yeah, it's better than the Panzerwagen. Yep. Shell velocity, fast. You have more ammo than the Panzerwagen, 42 rounds compared to the 30. So potential damage is a lot better. Top speed is not as fast, only 65. Reverse is 22. Horsepower per ton ratio is better than the Sandbox, 41.74, but it's not as fast as the Panzerwagen, so less horsepower per ton ratio, with about the same terrain resistance. So this is like the Panzerwagen, but it trades some of the horsepower per ton ratio and some of the accuracy for better DPM and a little bit more shells. So that is a big plus. 10 degrees of gun depression, that's good. 20 elevation, that's better than the Panzerwagen. Yep. Traverse is pretty fast for the haul, like a Russian tank, but traverse like the Panzerwagen-ish, less than 1 degrees about, yeah. So, yeah, it's like a Panzerwagen, but trades accuracy and some of the horsepower per ton ratio for more DPM and more shells. Same health, no armor. Alright, same view range. So it's actually viable now compared to the Sandbox version for this vehicle. But camo is still not as good as the other light tanks of tier 10. But this vehicle also has space armor on the hull across everything. So don't try to shoot at this thing with high explosive anti-tank shell. It may even penetrate with high explosive anti-tank. It's only 3mm space armor, but sometimes it will not. So I don't know the calibration, the math the algorithms behind the high explosive anti-tank shells, but I would not bet on it. So just use APCR, you'll still penetrate. So, yep. You do have space armor, but it's only 14.3 millimeters behind it at the front. So that's not that much. Not really that, yeah, it's not really that much. This vehicle is somewhat long, like the Russian tanks. So you do have space armor at the engine deck, as well as the hull front, but still does hurt a lot if you get hit by artillery, so don't. This tank is fast, but doesn't have the camo, so be aware of that. But I still think it's a lot more viable now compared to the sandbox version, so that's good. And let's take a look at the next vehicle on the list, which is the French, the Bat.Chat 12T at tier 8. So researching this vehicle, you have to research the Top Gun, which is only on this vehicle. So if you already research the AMX 1390, congratulations, you don't have to do all the work, but you still have to play with this tank to research the Bat.Chat 25T for the Bat.Chat 25T at tier 10, or you have to play this vehicle for the AMX 30 if you haven't already researched it, but I did, so alright. The radio is shared across the board, so you probably already have it unlocked. It weighs less than the stock radio, so recommend you mounting this first. It's free, obviously. Engine power is 400 compared to the 320. It weighs the same, so you could research this engine without researching the tracks. The tracks are 18,000 XP. So, do you need the tracks for the Top Gun? No, you don't. So for this vehicle, you can actually mount all the other equipments, the modules. And I don't think you can mount the equipments though. You probably could, but you probably don't even need the tracks for this vehicle if you don't mount equipments. But for the rest of the modules, you can just mount if you already have it researched. So that's pretty decent. Alright, here is this vehicle. It's not as stealthy as the Russians, but 13.35 is not that bad. Let's search up 12T to see if it works. Yep. So DPM, it's an auto-loading gun. Yep. It's this gun right here. So sure. Looks about the same. Yeah, with a different muzzle brake. Yeah, small stuff. So DPM for tier 8. Yeah, it's an autoloader. So, wait, it's a 75. Holy crap, it's not 90. Oh no, the alpha is low compared to the 90mm. And the penetration is about the same as the 90, but still, that's not good. So, it has a 4-round clip with a 2-second between each round. Reloads every 20 seconds. DPM is average. Below average for other conventional tanks, but average for tank destroyers. Auto-loading tanks. So, 4 rounds of 170. That's 680. That's like a ISU shell, a low rolling ISU shell. 2.2 seconds of aim time, 0.36 accuracy. That accuracy is a little bit better than the 0.38 from the original AMX 1390, I believe. Shooting on the move is better than the Pz.Wgn, so it's not bad, but it has a large burst compared to average tanks alpha, but it will not kill a tier 6 heavy tank or even mediums because they have about 700 health. It can only clip 680, so don't try to one clip a whole entire tier 6. it does not work out well. So doesn't have the actual burst capacity and only has 52 rounds with a potential damage of 8,840. So shell velocity is relatively fast, but it's a 75mm. So make sure your shots land. But 68 kilometers per hour with 23 reverse with a 33.33 horsepower per turn ratio. That's actually pretty good compared to the old AMX 1390. The AMX 1390 has 20-ish, 21-ish, whereas the AMX 1375 has about 19-ish. So that's actually pretty good. Tank traverse, pretty decent. Terrain resistance, pretty good. It's light tanks average now. So with the horsepower per turn ratio, this is relatively fast light tanks. So unlike the AMX 1390, which has a relatively good horsepower per turn ratio, this has amazing horsepower per turn ratio. And terrain resistance is not that bad. 6 degrees of gun depression, 13 elevation, so French autoloaders, bad gun angles. Turret traverse speed is fast. Gun elevation speed, pretty decent. No armor whatsoever, 40mm at the front, 20 at the sides, 25 for the turret all the way around. 1000 health. Tier 8. That's 10 less than the ISU 152, so like tank destroyers, these vehicles don't have that much health, but 390 meters of view range. Alright, yada yada. And weighs only 12 tons. Bat.Chat 12T, obviously. Camo 18.35, so I already talked about this, but not as stealthy as the Russians, but still pretty decent. So fit camo nets, possibly binos, but this tank is fast, so you don't have to play the traditional passive scouts with the French light tanks anymore. So you could put coated optics, vertical stabilizer, and possibly vents for this vehicle. But no armor whatsoever. It's a little bit smaller than the Russians in terms of up to down surface area. So still, if you get hit by artillery, it will hurt. Don't. But yeah. Oh, counterweight at the back of the turret. Nice. So oscillation turret. Yep. But it's like the new kind of oscillation turret. This is the old kind with the hinge at the side of the turret rather than the mantlet. Small detail. So is it worth playing this vehicle? I think it is. Based on the horsepower per turn ratio and the terrain resistance, it will feel fast compared to the current AMX 1390. But what I'm worried about is the gun. It doesn't have that much penetration or alpha, so it doesn't feel as scary as the AMX 1390's gun to tier 6 or tier 7s. So then again, AMX 1390 doesn't face tier 6. Oh well. So be cautious with this vehicle. Just be cautious. Autoloading vehicles or players who play them should be always cautious about the potential damage of the clip. That's a given. Alright. No French high tier lights. Disrespect. Disrespect to the AMX 13105. So about the same camo for this vehicle at tier 10, but it has been buffed dramatically since the sandbox version of this vehicle was pretty crap. So they buffed the DPM by buffing the reload. It's a 3-round clip, takes 26 seconds or so. Intershell reload is 2.73, aim time is 2.2, DPM is not that bad, about a 121B. So, not bad. Dispersion 0.38, so like the AMX 1390, Dispersion on the move, not bad. For an autoloader shooting on the move, that's relatively good. Shell velocity is somewhat slow for APCR shell, so and it only has 33 rounds, so it's better than the Bat.Chat 25T with 105, but that's only 3 rounds, so still be careful, but 3 more rounds does make a lot of difference. That's 10%. So DPM, compared this to the Bat.Chat, relatively about the same. So, yeah, interesting. 68 kilometers per hour, top speed, 22 reverse. Engine power, 600. 37.5 horsepower per ton ratio. That's outstanding. And terrain resistance, medium tankish. But couple that with the horsepower per ton ratio, pretty fast of a light tank. And what is surprising about this vehicle is it has 8 degrees of gun depression, like the AMX 50 series now. So you can actually go haul down with this vehicle. And the Bat.Chat doesn't have the 8 degrees of gun depression. It has only like 6, right? So that's pretty good. Elevation still sucks. 12 degrees. So, meh. But turret traverse for autoloader, oscillation turret, 40 degrees per second. And 41 for the hull. Pretty decent. 50mm at the front. Only a strip. 20 at the sides, 15 at the rear. 40 for the turret, 20 at the sides, 20 at the rear. 1,400 health. Not that much health, but it's low tier 8 heavy or tier 8 medium. So try not to get hit, but what can you do, right? Only weigh 16 tons, so don't get rammed. 415 meters of view range. Average for a high tier light, but it would be a little bit better with 420, but small stuff, that's only 5. So that camo rating is alright. It's fast. Pretty decent autoloading gun. It's an autoloader. You have to think about that. So burst damage, 3 rounds of about 400, so close to 1200, so 1170, I believe. But yeah, decent. Assaulting or aggressive, annoying, decently autoloader. It's not as ninja as the Bat.Chat 12T with the 5 rounds of 105, but 3 rounds is no joke. It will clip like half your health of a tier 10 medium and just run away based on the horsepower per ton ratio and the traverse of the vehicle. So yeah, it's a smaller assassin, but still has 3 more rounds than the Bat.Chat, so nothing to scoff at. But as you can see, strip up 50mm and that's it, so don't get hit. 8 degrees of gun depression is a very big deal. Very big deal. Yeah, look at that. You can actually go haul down with this vehicle. That's cray-cray. That's pretty good. So, alright. I like it. Too bad you had to grind the Bat.Chat 12T to the AMX 1390 and grind to the Bat.Chat 12 or 25T AP, and it's a split. Oh. Alright. So lastly, we have the Chinese. This video is getting a little bit long, so I'll put the timestamp into the description below to whichever nation, but let's see. Pz.Wgn. So camo is less than the French, but more than the Americans, as expected. So Pz.Wgn. Wow, that's a lot of DPM. That's crazy. That's pretty good. Penetration 220, so that's like a medium tank's penetration, like the E50 or the T54 E1 or the Patton. So it's not crazy, but it works. 320 alpha, standard 100mm alpha damage. Reloads every 7 seconds with a gun rammer or less, so 6.8ish. But aim time 2.2 seconds. Dispersion 0.4, so that's a little bit of a problem, but it will feel like the T29's gun with that accuracy. Dispersion is alright on the move. Oh, not bad. 40 rounds. Not bad. Alright. That's pretty good. That's crazy DPM. Wow. Astounded. Alright, 64 kilometers per hour top speed, 23 reverse, 32.08 horsepower per ton ratio. Also pretty good. Traverse, 50-ish, about. So good. Terrain resistance, also average, but still pretty good compared to the larger Russian tanks, quote unquote, larger terrain resistance. Gun depression, Chinese/Russian, 5 degrees. Elevation is pretty good, 20, so better than the 15 or so. And turret traverse speed, not as fast as the Russians, but 41.71 is good enough. 50 at the front, 25 at the sides, and 20 at the rear for the hull. 55 for the turret front, 35 for the sides, 20 at the rear. 1,250 health at tier 9, so average, but 420 meters of view range. That's pretty good. It's a tier 9. It has a lot of DPM. Holy crap. So, well, let's take a look at the research before we go crazy. Should have done that first. The gun takes a lot of XP, 57,900 XP to research this gun, and it's not shared, so you cannot play the WZ-120 and get this gun. Oops, sad to say. Engine also cost 34,400, so it weighs more too by 10 kilograms. Alright, radio is shared on all mediums and lights, so you probably will have this radio. It weighs the same, so mount it immediately. But in order to fit the gun, you have to unlock the tracks. I think you could put, I don't think actually it's red, so you might not be able to put the engine. So you probably should just research the tracks first. But it's like this vehicle will feel like any other tier line mediums because they have a ridiculous experience requirement. So it's like the E50, the T54, the Patton, the Centurion 7.1, all of them has a high experience. I'm gonna get my mouth mixed up. Experience requirement. You mix together is experiment, but it has a high XP cost for all the top guns. So it's like a medium tank, but this thing has a lot of DPM, similar to the E50 or similar to the Patton. Crazy amounts of DPM at the cost of accuracy. So accuracy is a big issue with this tank, but it's a light tank with a lot of view range. Not that much armor, but better camo rating, and it's fast. So think of it as a M60 Patton that's fast without armor and has only 5 degrees of gun depression, but whatever. So yeah, it's a medium tank. It's a supporting wolf packing light tank. It's not as light tank-ish of a AMX 1390. So this thing will dish out a lot of damage provided it has fire support like other medium tanks or other WZ-132As. But armor wise, still no armor. I mean, it's a little bit better against high explosive rounds, but that's not much. So the usual like 105mm or 100mm high explosive has about 50-ish to 70-ish millimeters of pen. So this armor is good for that compared to other light tanks, but you'll get hit by like 120mm AP shells or 120mm plus, like 128s or 122s or 150mm AP shells, and you'll be pinned. So try not to get hit, but this tank is fast. So as we can see, there's a trend that all light tanks are pretty fast now. Like the usual average with the horsepower per ton ratio is about 25 or so, or 20 to 25. Now it's 35 to 45. So they're a lot faster to rev up with pretty decent terrain resistance as well. Alright, and finally we have the final vehicle, the WZ-132-1, the tier 10 with the space armor on the turret, basically the little cage thing. But been talking for a long time. This video would take like, I don't know, 4 hours to upload. But DPM wise, It's not as crazy as the tier 9, but it has better penetration. So that's the trade-off. You get a little bit more penetration and the same accuracy. Wow, that's not fair. You have the same accuracy at the tier higher. Oh, shooting on the move is average, but still alright. It fires APCR, so faster to shoot the target and hit. Potential damage, 40 rounds, about the same-ish. 65 kilometers per hour top speed, 23 reverse, 36 horsepower per ton ratio. A little bit better terrain resistance, so faster than the tier 9 counterpart. 5 degrees of gun depression, 20 elevation. Traverse, still pretty good. It has a 200mm turret front with space armor. But as you can see, it's only 15.96 camouflage rating, so it's not as stealthy as the Russian counterpart. So you have sometimes to rely on the turret front. Just be a little bit careful about it. 1,500 health, and weighs about 30 tons. Pretty good view range, 425 for a Chinese tank. That's pretty good. So compare this to the tier 9 WZ-132A. It has a little bit faster mobility and faster shell travel speed with more penetration and turret front armor, but that's about it. So it kind of reminds me of the E50 in a sense. The E50 will feel like E50M, but the E50M has a little bit more penetration, a little bit better horsepower per ton ratio, and that's about it. Accuracy is the same, alpha is the same, DPM is the same. So this is basically the same comparison, same analogy to the E50 and the E50M. So yeah, the E50M is somewhat outshined by the E50 because about the same stats at a tier lower. So let's take a look at the armor model before we make the judgment. But the hull armor is garbled, so don't get shot at the hull. But for the turret front, it's 200mm rounded. So it does go up to 240-ish, 237-ish. Auto bounce, 300mm-ish. Large cupola. So you could shoot the cupola, but if you miss the shot, it might bounce on the turret cheeks. If you hit dead center, it will probably penetrate with a large caliber gun. But you do have space armor at the cheeks and the sides, so yeah, bad angles will penetrate. So I don't think this saves this vehicle unless it has like 8 degrees of gun depression or more. So basically, this does feel like a E50M compared to the E50. Same DPM, same accuracy, better horsepower per ton ratio and mobility, but you have about the same firepower with more penetration and better speed, and that's it. So interesting comparison, very interesting. But there you go, folks. I wasted like 30 minutes plus. Hasn't been keeping track, but I want to go over all the light tanks, but that would take forever. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys know a little bit more about the game and hear about me rambling. So that's my experience playing light tanks. I do enjoy them, but it does seem all these light tanks will have a 30 horsepower per ton ratio plus with decent terrain resistance and tank traverse or hull traverse and turret traverse. So these will feel like a faster medium tank, a lot faster medium tank at the cost of penetration, alpha, or DPM, or all of it. So basically these are medium tanks on steroids without armor. So basically naked medium tanks on steroids. That's a good analogy. But thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Try it out on the test server and see if you like them or not. So take advantage of the test server. It's open for everybody. I'll put the download link into the description below, but it's a big patch. It's a very big patch. And please, North American server, put the freaking patch notes. So remember the scamish or the advantages to take before this patch rolls out? Sell your high tier 8 lights after the patch, or buy the tier 8s before the patch because the cost. So yeah, there you go, folks. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.